Hi everyone and welcome to Leeds Dad's AskADad Facebook Live. I'm Erroll Murray from Leeds Dads. We support dads and families to engage with their preschool children. And during these sessions, we talk about life under coronavirus, what it is, and how families can cope in the current crisis. Our focus tonight is on money. I should have a wedge of like foreign currency or something here. During these sessions, we talk about foreign currency. I'm lost now. Are you struggling with universal credit? Are you looking for a refund on a season ticket or a holiday? 500,000 UK firms are at risk of collapse, according to insolvency experts Begbiz Trainer. And the news today was that over 2 million people have applied for universal credit benefits since the coronavirus clampdown. And parents stepping in as their adult children build up rent debt. And dream holidays are being scrapped. What can you do? With me tonight are Katie Watts, consumer expert at moneysavingexpert.com, and Lynda Bailey, Director of Compliance and Advice Services at moneybuddies.org, who help clients out of debt, poverty and social injustice, and Ron Batiste, a member of Leeds Dads, who has experience in the care and legal fields. Can you say hi, everybody?
Hi.
Hello.
Great. So if you have any questions, please get in touch. Message us here on facebook.com/Leeds Dads or @Leeds Dads on Twitter, and we'll do our best to answer. Just to summarize, coronavirus, it's a new flu-like virus spreading around the world. The virus causes an illness called COVID-19. Coronavirus is being declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. That's the part of the UN that looks after the health and well-being of people around the world. And what we know is that most people get symptoms of a fever. A lot of these people get a cough, or it's been announced this week that it's seen that they lose sense of smell or taste as well. And then, ironically, some people show no symptoms whatsoever. What can we do? Well, it's all about social distancing, staying at least 2 meters from other people, and washing our hands. Our focus tonight is on money. Nearly 2 million people have applied for universal credit benefits since the coronavirus clampdown. Parents step in as adult children build up rent debt, and dream holidays have been scrapped. With me is Katie Watts, consumer expert, Lynda Bailey, benefits expert, and Ron Batiste, a member of Leeds Dads with experience in the care and legal fields. So facebook.com/Leeds Dads, or if you're on Twitter, it's @Leeds Dads, and please get in touch. We'll do our best to answer. Lynda, you're the Director of Compliance and Advice Services at Money Buddies. Can you tell me a bit more about what is Money Buddies and what do you do?
Money Buddies is part of our debt advice service, and it's a financial capability service that we provide. Normally,
What's that?
Financial capability, it's making sure that you're getting the benefits that you should be getting, you're on the right tariff for your gas and electric provider, all things like that, just making sure that the money you've got coming in is equivalent to what's going out, and you know where you are and things like that. And it runs alongside our debt advice service, which is run from the Ebor Gardens Advice Centre in the middle of Burmatoffs. So we refer people backwards and forwards to both parties, really.
And who used to come to you for help, and who comes to you now? What's changed? Anything changed?
I think the more people are coming to us now with benefit inquiries. It's slowed down a little bit, but initially it was, how do I claim universal credit? How do I get on? How do I do this? And like you said earlier, Erroll, about 2 million people have applied for universal credit. Obviously, the phone lines are extremely busy. We've had clients saying that they've been waiting up to 6 hours at a time to get through to somebody to talk to about the universal
You're that
credit.
busy?
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, and it's just astronomical. It's obviously something that has never been seen before in my lifetime, in a lot of people's lifetimes, I suppose. But it's just trying to help as many people as we possibly can to make sure that they can come through this in financially as well as mentally as well, and making sure they get through to the other side.
And what about the way you've had to change? You're obviously much busier, or you've become much busier over the last 6 weeks. How have you had to adapt as a business?
It's been quite difficult because we're having to work from home. All our staff are working from home now. So it is a little bit frustrating because we want to help as many people as we possibly can. But it's quite difficult over the phone because a lot of our clients have got special needs, whether they're mental health needs or they have support workers or anything like that. Where they need the face-to-face, and they prefer face-to-face contact rather than
Sure.
talking to somebody over the phone. So it's been quite difficult to engage people in the new way that we've got working at the minute. And it, like I said, it is difficult, but we are trying our best.
Do you do like video sort of consultations?
Yes, we have got the facility to do like we are doing now with Zoom, but at the minute there's a lot of clients that are still not computer savvy, or they don't have access to computers or smartphones and things like that. So again, that's a barrier that we're coming across as well.
Okay, and how are people reacting to the whole situation?
Very worried, very stressful. Nobody knows where they're going. The fact that the government have furloughed people and they're paying 80% of their wage and things like that at the minute is really good. But it's still, if you're living from week to week, a 20% reduction in your income is a massive effect to the outgoings that you've got. So I think after we come through this, we are going to be extremely busy, extremely.
You're basically saying that 20% that people are losing could be their weekly food budget, their
Correct.
Fuel budget.
Yeah, we're getting a lot more calls for food banks and fuel vouchers as well.
What was the fuel voucher?
Fuel voucher is the food bank service. Some food banks will offer fuel vouchers. So like if somebody's got no gas or electric on, rather than them going and getting food, they can get food and a voucher to top their electric or gas up.
Interesting.
Which is, like I say, in this moment in time, that's the kind of things that we're getting a lot more of than we ever have done before. So
are people reacting practically? Are they thinking, okay, that, let's just deal with this? Or people worried? Are they? Are people nervous? Is it panic? Or is it just, okay, well, here's something new that I have to deal with?
No, the clients that I'm speaking to on a day-to-day basis are worried. They don't know. The ones that are working are very worried in the respect of they don't know how long it's going to go on. Have they got a job to go back to eventually? Because of the longer it goes on, the more chance businesses have got that they're not going to reopen back up. And then the ones that are not working, I think they're struggling with the isolation more than anything, because they don't work, so they don't go out to work, they don't have that interaction with work colleagues. So being sort of locked down is quite hard for people, and mental health is a big issue as well at the minute, as we're getting a lot of clients coming through with mental health issues as well.
Whatever we talk about, whenever we do the AskADad talks like this, the first thing that comes up seems to be the impact this has had on people's mental health and how it's affecting them. You're watching AskADads on Leeds Dad's Facebook Live. Our focus tonight is on money. 500,000 UK firms are at risk of collapse, according to insolvency experts Begbie's Trainer. Nearly 2 million people have applied for universal credit since the coronavirus clampdown, and dream holidays are being scrapped. With me tonight is Katie Watts, consumer expert at moneysavingexpert.com, and Lynda Bailey, the Director of Compliance and Advice Services at moneybuddies.org.uk, and Ron Batiste, who's a member of Leeds Dads, who's also able to take questions and discuss issues. Katie, the Foreign Office. Hi, thanks for joining us. the Foreign Office is advising on travel indefinitely. Can we have a holiday? Can we go anywhere? Is that the end of summer holidays? Is that the end of holidays?
Possibly. I mean, the difficult thing with trips and holidays at the moment is that the Foreign and Commonwealth Office says that you can't travel anywhere for non-essential reasons indefinitely, like you said. And while you may have a trip planned in the next few weeks that is very clear cut, that's not happening. If it's slightly further ahead, the issues get a little bit more grey, and people are getting kind of confused and worried about what to do about their trips, wondering what their rights are, whether they can get refunds or cancellations, what are their legal rights, what are not their legal rights. And it is very difficult because for some trips a little bit further afield, that Foreign and Commonwealth Office warning could very well be lifted by that time. So even travel insurers won't always pay out until maybe 7 days before the trip was due. Some are a little bit further ahead than that, but yeah, it's
but that
quite
could be
worrying and difficult.
That could be thousands of pounds, and you're not able to know that the holiday is cancelled until maybe a week or two ahead.
It all depends on your terms and conditions, but for most people, if you cancel it just from disinclination to travel, that's what the term is in travel insurance, you haven't got as many rights as if the company cancels it itself. Now, there are legal rights that apply for flights and for package holidays, certain flights, but with sort of hotel bookings or things that have been purchased on their own, it kind of is up to the company, though the competitions watchdog is kind of looking into unfair contractual terms at the moment. They're a bit worried about companies taking advantage.
Well, Hugh, friend of mine, has messaged to say that he's going to a jazz festival in Rotterdam, and the hotel, it's in July. The hotel has offered to allow them to have the booking for next year because the event's been cancelled. The event organisers have said you can have the tickets for the same event next year because it's been cancelled this year, but the flight with KLM is still scheduled to fly. So and he won't know until literally at the time of the flight, which is in July, whether he can get his money back there or not. That sounds a bit unfair, doesn't it?
It's very difficult because there is every chance that flights will be running at that time, and obviously the travel industry is also trying to keep up and running. Remember, we are very upset. It's a very difficult time for us as consumers at the moment, and a lot of us can't afford to lose that sort of money, and they might want to make plans a bit further ahead and cancel and reschedule. But also there are other people on the end of the phone who work for those travel companies, who are very, very worried about redundancy, not even getting redundancy if the company folds, being at the back of a queue of creditors. There are people on phone lines working from home in a very new and different way without manager support around to sort of help discretionary goodwill payments and things like that. There is something that your good friend could try and check with their travel insurance policy, because some policies, if you got them before coronavirus was a known thing, might give you the flight money back if the other parts of your trip were cancelled. So if you were going for a specific event or the hotel's gone into administration, you can't use that anymore. It kind of varies by policy, and if you disagree with the travel insurers solution, you can then raise it to the free financial ombudsman service, but in realistic terms, he might need to wait for that flight to actually be cancelled first, and there's a chance it could be, so in which case you would have a legal right to a refund in cash if you wanted it.
That's fair. Ron, I think we had lots of messages coming in with travel issues. Can you see any there, please? I can't hear Ron. I can't hear anyone.
Sorry, I'm here. Yes.
Hi, Ron.
Sorry, I'm just looking. Yeah, can you hear me there? Yeah?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I know people are. Yeah, I see stuff here. There's one from Jade who spoke about. I think we've probably answered that one a bit about if holidays aren't cancelled.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if they aren't cancelled, if they don't feel safe to go. I mean, where do people stand on that in terms of not feeling safe to go?
Well, if it's imminent but not cancelled, you can talk to your travel insurer. As long as you got travel insurance before mid-March, see what they can do for you. I think in the first instance, with a lot of these cancellations, a lot of companies are sort of offering free reschedules and things like that. So it would be worth going to the different providers and saying, what can you offer me? Are you offering a free reschedule, and plan it for next year? That is normally the quickest and easiest way to get what you've paid for, but at a later date. If you aren't satisfied with that and you want a cash refund, like I said, you may need to wait until a lot nearer in the time to see if those elements are cancelled. What you have a legal right to is flights that depart from the EU on an EU airline or return into the EU on an EU airline. So they're covered by flight delay compensation law, which we're still very much part of, even though we're not technically in the EU, we're still in transition. You can opt for a cash refund. Airlines are sort of giving quite a few people the runaround, but some of them have sort of changed now and made it a little bit better. And, they've had the feedback.
What do you mean by the runaround?
So they will make it very obvious on their website how to claim a voucher for another trip or how to reschedule, but make it very, very difficult, or make you sit on the phone for a very long time in order to get the cash refund that you're legally entitled to. And even then, there are some really bad players out there who are sort of insisting that you won't get that cash refund until a lot further down the line, despite what the law says. It's a really difficult impasse in the travel industry at the moment. They haven't got the cash to keep going, to keep giving out these refunds. If you think you can afford the voucher or afford a reschedule, then it's worth considering that, particularly if it's a package holiday and it's ATOL protected. They've created a new type of voucher called a refund credit voucher, which is the terminology to look for. That's supposed to be ATOL protected, but it's never been cancelled before. So if the company was to go, it's never been tested before.
Okay.
So if the company was to go insolvent, effectively you'd be protected by the ATOL scheme, but that only counts for package holidays. It is really difficult because it feels like it needs government intervention at the moment to break this impasse, where the travel industry is struggling to cope with the demand for cash refunds where those legal rights are involved.
Looking at getting money back, Dan says that personally I like to support small businesses, but as a consumer it's frustrating when you've paid for something that can't be delivered. If small businesses are upfront and honest about it, then I can accept that. I see he's booked a holiday in a small hotel, and they've said we can't have you here in the summer, but would you like to come in November? And if small businesses are upfront and honest about it, then I can accept that. But some are just not responding or offering unrealistic proposals. Is that their fault? Is that their fault, or are the government making support hard to access for these companies?
No, so it's because they're struggling financially themselves. You have a legal right to a cash refund when it comes to EU based flights that are covered by EU law, and also package holidays. But with everything else, it's kind of contractual. It's down to the contract that you've got. There is a piece of consumer rights law, though, that protects you from unfair terms in contracts. So if you have been asked to pay an unreasonable deposit, or there's a non-refundable deposit for an amount that's a lot more than what the company would lose by not having you, you could technically fight that and take it to sort of an alternative dispute resolution service or even to court. But the problem is, at the moment, what is unreasonable is really grey, and that business isn't taking any money. It can't resell your date.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't know how that would play out in a court of law. And also, you know, realistically, that it's really hard to take something to court at the moment while we're still, you know, in eased off lockdown in England. So, you know, it's working with the hotel, you know, be firm, ask for what you want. You may have to accept a reschedule. That may be the best solution for you. There is something else you can try, but it may not work. It's something called chargeback, which you can do through your bank.
I've heard of this.
It's a voluntary protection that some of the card companies have signed up to, but you make the claim through your bank, whoever provides your card to you. And what they do is if you don't get a service that you asked for, or there's a problem, they try and claw back the money from the bank on the other side. It's something you can try. A lot of people at the moment are trying it with Ryanair flights, because the Ryanair boss has basically said, we're not helping, you're going to have to wait, and I don't care what the law says. So
isn't that called illegal?
Technically, yes, but again, it's this impasse with the travel industry and what is actually possible. So you know, the government and the CAA, the airline regulator, are still working through how they're dealing with that. You know, we have to remember, it feels like forever, but we have only been in lockdown for 2 months, and you know, people are changing rules and laws that have been in place for years in a matter of days or weeks. So you know, it's really difficult, but we may have to exercise some more patience, or you know, and if they don't hold these companies to account, then hopefully there'll be consumer champions like us that pressure them too.
Hopefully, that'd be a great thing.
Katie,
you're watching. Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
Katie. Can I just ask, on the card side of things, is that just for credit cards, or is it just any bank cards?
Chargeback is for any bank card.
Right.
There is that's a voluntary protection, so it could be prepaid, debit card or credit card. However, I think what you might be thinking of as well is there's a legal protection that you have called Section 75, which is Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act. But if you say Section 75 to your bank, they'll know what you mean. Mm-hmm. That's a legal protection where your card provider is jointly liable if something goes wrong. So if you paid for something that's over £100 and is less than £30,000, then you can use this Section 75 protection. But the banks kind of don't really like that so much, because it's them that will have to pay out to you rather than the other side. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to stuff that's going on at the moment, even though Section 75 is a more sort of robust protection, because it's a legal one and not a voluntary one, they like to kind of go with chargeback first, see what you can do, reclaiming that money from the bank of the vendor.
So if it was a company like Flybe, which has gone bust and is no more, and you had a flight with them, could you claim the money back on chargeback? Because there's no one to claim it from. Who would they be claiming the money from? The banks be claiming the money from?
Well, if you have paid for your flights and they're over £100 on a credit card, you could try Section 75. Then the card provider would have to pay out for you. So that is a stronger protection. You could try chargeback, but most people are at the back of the queue of creditors with the administrator, unless their flight was protected by a package holiday protection at all.
Sure. You're watching Leeds Dad's Facebook Live. It's AskADad. Our focus tonight is on money. Nearly 2 million people have applied for universal credit benefits since the coronavirus clampdown. Dream holidays have been scrapped, and parents are stepping in as their adult children build up rent debts. With me tonight is Katie Watts, consumer expert at moneysavingexpert.com. I'll give you the whole website address there. And Lynda Bailey, Director of Compliance and Advice Services at moneybuddies.org.uk. There you go. That's moneybuddies.org.uk for you, Lynda. I'm giving you as much promotion as possible.
Thank you.
Andy Atkinson's messaged us, and he said, is there any news on the council rent being stopped for 3 months? Leeds council rent.
No.
I didn't know about that.
No, definitely not. What they will do is they've stopped all bailiff action for rent and for council tax for 3 months. So you'll not be getting any visits from bailiffs or anything like that if you're already in arrears, and they're being very, very helpful for clients that are ringing up and saying that they have got a problem because of the coronavirus. They will look at other ways of trying to either reduce or make some arrangement for you to pay any arrears that you're owing back at a smaller rate rather than having to pay it all back at once.
Okay, Ron, have you seen some of the questions that have come in regarding benefits? Hello, Ron, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I saw one from Geraldine. What organisations are around in Leeds that can help you if your job is not secure and you may be unemployed, including help making claims for benefits? Yeah, that's the question from Geraldine. So I think, who would that be? Lynda?
Lynda, yeah. We can, our Money Buddy service, like I said, can help with the universal credit claims. They can look at what benefits are available for you and what's the best option for you going forward. CAB are also doing universal credit claims, and the Welfare Rights Service as well. Anybody like that can do it if you are computer savvy and you know how to use a computer. Universal credit is just an online form that you can fill in yourself and do it that way.
And if you're worried about your employment contracts as well, you can look at ACAS, which covers employment rights. I think they have a helpline as well, so you may be able to share that one later. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but there's also a lot of people who may be having difficulties with sort of like accessing benefits, and I think, you know, do you think, both of you, I think Katie and Lynda, do you think it's more difficult during this time for people to actually access the government help, you know, before coronavirus, or has it become a bit more sympathetic and easier?
I think the issue that they've got at the minute is that it's just the total numbers of clients that are claiming. Like Erroll said earlier, 2 million people, it's up something like 200%. It's and the helplines, if somebody needs extra help, so they've come to a page on the form that's quite difficult and they're struggling with it and they need help trying to get hold of the contact centre to give them that help or advice, that's the difficulty that they're getting. If, like I said, if you are computer savvy, you can just go on and do it, then it's just same as pre-COVID-19. It's easy enough. It's just like everywhere else, everything's just a lot more busier.
I think
sorry, Ron, a question's coming about from Lindsay about PIP.
Yeah, and if I'm going to answer Katie or Lynda, Lindsay says, I know a family that have claim PIP. They had to reapply in December as the claim period was coming to an end. They had texts from February saying their forms had been received and considered. Their PIP claim is coming to an end this week, and they have been told the money will stop until a decision is made. What can they do?
Can you explain what PIP is first, please?
I can, certainly. PIP is personal independence payment, and it's paid for people that need extra help within their life to lead a normal life as possible. So it can be mobility issues, it can be mental health issues, anything really. And all face-to-face assessments have been put on hold till I think it's the 17th of June at the minute. But after that, who knows where we're going to go with those. But as far as we're aware, the information that we've got from the welfare support scheme is that the process is still the same, especially for PIP, because it's still going to be going ahead as it can. What they need to be doing is they would need to be ringing the welfare support and find out exactly whereabouts their claim is in that queue. You know what I mean? They will be able to tell them exactly whereabouts they are and what process they are. Because what we've got to understand as well is that all the DWP departments, most of those are working from home as well. So again, they're getting it, finding it quite difficult to I know one of the biggest issues that we've got is clients are not answering our phones because they're withheld numbers. We have to without down our numbers because they're our personal phones, if you know what I mean. So, and it's quite hard to get somebody to answer the phone. But yeah, the advice I would give is to ring Welfare Rights Department and get them to find out exactly where in the system that claim is, and explain that obviously it runs out this week, what is going to happen going forward.
Right, yeah.
Any others, Yvonne?
No, there's just this one. Let's see. I know Chris has mentioned here about deflation. I think he possibly could be referring to what the Chancellor was speaking about today, I think, in the news about recession and stuff to do with the economy shrinking even more. With people not traveling and spending so freely as they did, and then huge inflation predicted in the longer term, if globalization does not indeed reverse this as a result. What does this mean for finance on a personal level? For example, savings, mortgages, pensions. It's a pretty far-reaching question, as it were.
I mean, so we at the moment have a historically low base rate, which is what a lot of borrowing and spending is based on. It's something set by the Bank of England, and it's fallen well below 1% in emergency measures at the moment. A couple of things. If you're a borrower, that's quite good, particularly on mortgages and particularly on tracker or variable mortgages that sort of follow the base rate. It means that you are, paying a lot less interest for the borrowing that you're doing. So if you haven't remortgaged in a while, it's a good time to have a look. Although because of coronavirus, lending criteria has been tightened quite a bit. So you might have to have a certain amount of equity in your home in order to do that right now. But then for savers, it's pitiful, really pitiful. Yes. Savings rates are absolutely dire at the moment.
Is it 0.25%, something like that?
On a basic account, if you haven't switched for a while, yes, it's possible to get it up to just under 2% if you're prepared to fix for a little while. But obviously, with the way they are, we don't really want to fix our savings and lock it away. However, at the moment, banks are sort of allowing you to access your fixed rate savings without a penalty at the moment if you've already got them. So there is that sort of to fall back on. We'll see how long that lasts, though. The economy in the future, it's anyone who says they can predict it is lying. They haven't got a crystal ball. We don't know how it's going to work, but certainly this is, an economic dip like we haven't seen. If it's temporary, investments that you have in pensions or stocks and shares that you might have, you might be better off holding on to them and just waiting for it to ride out. That's what investments are for. They're for the long term. They're not for short term. You can't just, unless you're a venture capitalist, like working on a really good techie startup who are going to increase their profits millions in the first few months. Most investments are there to be ridden out over and evened out over a long period of time. But then that does pose a problem for people, particularly who are nearing retirement, who had a high risk pension pot going on, and they had their pension invested, in fairly high risk with the hope of a better return on it. Yes. And that's, could have knocked in the week that coronavirus really hit the UK, knocked 20% or so off of that pot. So, working for longer may have to be people may not be able to retire when they want to, or they may have to accept the pension pot that they're left with. Certainly, I've got a stocks and shares ISA. Mine is a robo one, which isn't really a good product to have, because it tends to give you a little bit less returns than something that you choose yourself and get guided through. But at the moment, they've changed their portfolio to try and balance these dips in the market, which is quite exciting to see from some of the newer companies.
You're watching Leeds Dad's AskADad Facebook Live. Tonight we're looking at money, focus on money. If you need help with your bills following coronavirus, if you have problems with finance, over 2 million people have applied for universal credit benefits since the coronavirus clampdown. It's been announced today. Parents are stepping in as their adult children build up rent debt, and dream holidays are being scrapped. With us tonight is Katie Watts, consumer expert at Money Saving Expert, Lynda Bailey, Director of Compliance at Money Buddies organisation, which helps clients out of debt, poverty and social injustice, and Mon Batiste, member of Leeds Dads, who has experience in the care and legal field. If you have any questions, please get in touch. You can find us on facebook.com/Leeds Dads or on Twitter on @Leeds Dads if you have a question. And if you'd like to keep it confidential, you can email leedsdads@gmail.com. That's leedsdads@gmail.com. Let's quickly look at tickets and services. There's so much area to go through and time's flying already. Thanks very much for being part of this, Katie and Lynda. Let's look at tickets and services. Leeds United, the fans are up in arms in Leeds at the moment because I think there are about 9 matches to go before Leeds could win the title.
Yes.
Could win the title. Yeah, I've got no bias. And basically, what if people want to claim back on their football season tickets?
I'm afraid I don't have a great answer for you at the moment because it kind of, in normal times, it kind of comes down to the contract. If they haven't played a game, they should kind of offer you a pro rata refund for that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a ruling a few years ago with Manchester United who some of their season ticket holders weren't able to get hold of tickets for a certain game because of the way that they do they do ticket allocation, and that was overruled in court, and they had to give a pro rata refund. However, these aren't normal times, and at the moment we don't know if those games are just being postponed, and postponement is a really nifty little trick for reducing your consumer rights. So at the moment we know that the Premier League is starting to resume under its sort of phased plan. The Championship, we don't know yet. It's looking like it's possibly going down the same path, and the EFL in general. I know Leeds United has sort of said, can you bear with us since the government eased its lockdown in a few other days. Remember, they will probably need to get staff trained to deal with whatever refund and credit policy that they come up with. They will probably need to check out their legal standing with whatever they choose to do, and also potentially build something on their website to try and ease that. So we are sort of a week from the last time the government changed lockdown. The football leagues are trying to work through that answer right now. If you can hold on a little bit longer, please do, and see what refund options get offered to you.
So what about things like the annual cinema passes? What about things like gym memberships? Gym memberships make such an incredible amount of money out of people who just don't turn up. So
I can't speak for the independents, not being from the Leeds area, but I can speak to some of the chains. And actually, we've been really pleasantly surprised to see that a lot of chains for gyms have put automatic pauses on your membership fees, which is really great. Potentially some of them saying, like, if you can afford to pay half of it or a little bit of it, then we'll add that back on the end in terms of your free time. And then some people who've paid annually up front are being offered the extra amount of months that the gym's been closed on the end of their contract. So we've been really, really pleasantly surprised to see gyms kind of being fairly amenable, amongst some very difficult circumstances. So I think gyms, not so much to worry about there.
We've got a double question from Bina. Will we be able to book and go on staycations? And she's just booked a camping field for a dozen families for their summer holiday. If they're not allowed to go, will they lose their deposit?
Well, with the government's current lockdown situation, still banned. No sort of staying away from home for non-essential reasons. That includes second homes, caravan and campsites, or anything similar. UK hotels and B&Bs haven't been given the go-ahead to start doing business as usual anymore, and you are being told to remain in your primary residence, because a campsite sadly isn't protected by package holiday regulations. You probably will lose your deposit. Like I said, it will probably be fair. Whether it's fair or not is really difficult to handle. It might be worth, if you're booking anything, think very carefully about booking anything right now. And if you do, make sure you're very well aware of the terms and conditions, the reschedule option that you've got, or refund option. But try and work with the campsite if that does happen, and say, I'd really like to come. Can I have the same trip, but when we know a bit more?
I guess this goes back to the question we had earlier about small businesses, supporting them so that you can actually have the service, but maybe not right now. And that
it's
allows
very difficult.
the business to hold on to the cash so it can survive.
So imagine you've got some tickets for a small theatre company, and that you asking for your money back and them kind of bowing to the pressure might mean that somebody really is worse off and out of a job. So it's always worth, with all of these things, considering what can I afford to do right now. It's we want companies to show us forbearance, this new word, this financial word for sort of being compassionate, but also we kind of need to show it the other way too, and try, at least in the first instance, to be polite and firm about your rights and what you're due legally.
We've got a question here, Lynda, from Montgomery. If you're trying to cut costs, is there a way to get out of a contract, such as a phone or internet?
You can talk direct with the provider that you're with, speak to them, and like Katie said, show them a little bit of thing. They're trying to keep their businesses going as well as us, and we're trying to save money because we're in that situation. But just keep in contact with them. Don't wait until you're 3 months in arrears and then try to change something. The more you keep in contact with the creditor, the more they will help you try and get through this. I know the ones that we've been speaking to over the last few weeks, they are changing people's contracts and they're changing people's tariffs and things like that, even if it's only for a matter of 3 months or 5 months, 6 months, just to get them through this period and then going back to what they were on originally. And I think the companies are being more realistic in, if they do that, they've got people that are going to stay and going to stay loyal with them rather than moving to somebody else.
The mood music on our side is, people really will remember how they were treated by companies in this crisis. Even if it's kind of, not necessarily the outcome that they wanted, but their expectations were set. That makes the world of difference. Leeds United fans and everybody who likes sport in general will be pleased to know, that Sky Sports has paused its sports subscriptions. Energy companies are helping with emergency credit if you're vulnerable and having to lock down. Speak to them, see what they provide for you. Water bill companies, some council tax, relief is available as well. You may not be able to get out of a contract because that may come at a penalty that's too unaffordable for you, but you may be able to pause certain elements and get a delayed payment.
Okay. But one thing that we haven't really talked about is the stigma, is the feeling, the frustration, the embarrassment of being out of work or being on reduced work and having to ask for benefits. How real is it, and what's it like going through the process, Lynda?
We've had quite a few clients that we've spoken to that have said that they've never claimed benefits in their life. They've worked from being 15, 16-year-old. And now they've come to this point. They haven't got a clue what to do and how to do it. So yes, they may be internet savvy, but because they've never had to do anything like this before, it is very much a new territory, and getting that understanding there that that help is there for them at this time. And
what's it like going through the process?
It's quite a long process, universal credit. So I think it's about 26 pages long that you have to.
26 pages long.
Yeah.
Hold on. I've just given up the will to live.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly, I've just given up the 26 pages long. Yeah. Are you telling me there's like 2 or 3 questions on a page, or a lot of questions on a page?
Each page is different. So like the first page will be your name and your address and your date of birth and that kind of stuff, and it just goes on. And you know what I mean, they need to know what you've been doing in the past, whether you've been working, your income, what your income is, things. So in a normal society, the help is there for you to sit with somebody who is a welfare specialist, and they will go through with each question with you. But because everything obviously is closed, everything's in lockdown, that help isn't there at the minute in the abundance that it was. So it is that little bit harder for clients to get that.
So this is totally over the phone now, and it's not a video system, it's on the phone.
Yeah, online, on the phone.
And what do you get as universal credit? What would you receive? What can you get?
That depends entirely on each individual circumstances. There's a basic amount for a single person, a basic amount for a couple, and then you get added things on top for children and housing and things like that. So it's knowing. That's why the pages are so long, because you've got to make sure that you put everything in. And I think another thing, a hard thing is as well, is the council tax support in what we call legacy benefits, which are the old benefits like income support and job seekers allowance. Once you claimed for them, you got housing benefit and council tax support, and it was like one claim. The new system, the universal credit, you have to claim council tax support separately. So you know what I mean, you do the universal credit and you do the housing benefit one, and then you've got to do the council tax support one as well to get help in that area.
So housing benefit could cover your rent. Would it cover your mortgage?
It doesn't cover mortgage, because what you have to do is you would have to claim mortgage interest allowance, which you can't effectively do that for the first 13 weeks. So this is why I think the mortgage companies have put this 3-month holiday break in for mortgages, hoping that by the end of the 3 months it'll be over and done with. Obviously, it's not looking like that. After 13 weeks, you can claim SMI, which, like I said, support mortgage interest, but they will only pay the interest on the mortgage. So the actual capital side of it, you've still got to pay as well.
So if I was paying rent, and I'm paying, I don't know, say £700 a month rent, and I'm a single person, what could I expect as a single person claiming universal credit?
In the Leeds area,
in basic terms.
Yeah, at basic terms, it's set per area, so per sort of postcode area. But in the Leeds area, I think it's £73 a week. So it doesn't all get paid like it used to do. In the legacy benefits, the new benefit, the universal credit, you would have to pay something towards that yourself. So depending on what that rent is.
In response to the coronavirus crisis, the Chancellor raised the housing part of universal credit to cover the bottom 30% of market rents in that area. So if you have any kind of sense of what rental costs are like in that area, you can kind of estimate what you might be entitled to. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Ron, did you see anything that you wanted to talk about?
Yes, yeah. This is a pretty tricky question here from Samin Farouk. I don't know who would be best to answer this, either Katie or Lindsay. He's saying, if you're furloughed, can the child maintenance service deduct 20% of your gross salary payments in order to assess your payments through this difficult and strained period? So I think what he's actually sort of like saying, well, with the child maintenance service, you know, there's a certain amount of money deducted from your wages, depending on how many children you are not living with, which children are yours, so you're not living with, you see. So I don't know who'd be best to answer that.
So I can sort of touch on it.
Yeah.
So I believe that as part of the emergency legislation, certain sort of eligibility criteria and testing of how much child maintenance should be, or changes in circumstances, were lifted, and there are actually a lot of campaign groups who are very against that, particularly where they have difficulty getting child benefit out of the other side.
Yes.
If you're on furlough, I would suggest talking to the child maintenance service through the appropriate channel that you've been asked to, if you have a mediation service as well, to try and negotiate and see what is acceptable. But I think the problem is that this emergency legislation has removed the need to the sort of the need to evidence what you're earning. So there are a lot of campaign groups are a little bit worried about fraud. It's worth looking into it. I'm sorry I can't answer it anymore, but speak to the CMS, I think, is the best option.
I would have just said speak to the CMS, because each individual case will be different. And
that's
they
child maintenance service.
Yeah, the child maintenance service. They will look at each individual case appropriately, and it's usually a percentage of their disposable income, sort of thing. So if their income's gone down, then they could maybe get that reassessed for this period of time to get to pay less.
Okay. I don't know. Can you cover furlough questions, Lynda?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
No, Katie's more experienced.
Katie, here's one couple coming your way. We're going to have to be quite swift because we're running so quickly out of time. We are going to run over a few minutes. I hope that's okay with you both.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Vivian says, I've been furloughed and I recently heard my company has opened a voluntary redundancy scheme. Should I be worried that those furloughed will be pressured into VR, voluntary redundancy?
I wouldn't predict. It sounds like your company were kind of forward thinking in offering furlough. For a little while, lots of companies were very nervous to do it. They didn't understand it properly. They didn't have clarity on the rules, and it was, like consumer organisations like us that pushed them and got them to include extra guidance, or effectively translated what furlough meant. So, don't predict straight away that they're going to be particularly harsh on you. If you're worried about pressure once it arises, it's worth talking to ACAS about your rights. They have very clear guidance on their website as to what redundancy you are entitled to. You may get a better deal there as well. The worry is, though, if you don't accept it, that you may be stuck if the company then folds, and you may not have an easy ride of it trying to claim salary through an administrative service. So, it's going to be really difficult to weigh it up. A lot of people did say, where part of the company's been furloughed and part haven't, can I say no to this? Well, you could, but, they ask you to agree that to prove it to HMRC. And the worry is if you don't, that they may have to make you redundant. So it sounds like they've been pretty fair and helpful so far and claim the money that they can from the government and pass that on to you. Don't prejudge straight away, but it's a difficult time for everyone.
Simone says, it's quite an interesting perspective here. He says, will the UK economy learn its lesson from the crisis and abandon capitalism?
So let's have a think about this question. So I think that any economic system could not have planned for a virus that we don't understand to cause the amount of health, economic and mental health destruction that it has. I think, it would be really unfair to say we could have planned for exactly what it's done for this global lockdown. The amount of economies all over the world that are being canned, brought right down, and you know, less capitalist economies than ours are suffering just the same.
Yeah.
You know, they do say though that or the government initially at the beginning of this was kind of saying, you know, the coronavirus is the great leveler because anyone can get it, but actually it isn't. You know, there are people that are disproportionately affected. Yeah, there are people.
Yes.
You know, there's research out there. There are areas of non-privilege for certain women. There are people from BAME backgrounds who are disproportionately affected because of the kinds of jobs that they do, or the kinds of work that they're in. You know, there are people who have certain working structures that are disproportionately affected. 75% of the healthcare workforce is women, for example, and they're all having to go to work and they've got families. You know, and then you look at the sort of proportion of people that are being furloughed or laid off because of the types of work they have. There's so many intersectional issues going on here. Is it time to ditch a capitalist economy? I'm not sure, but you know, I think if anyone says that we could have had a certain society that would have been prepped for this crisis, I think that it would never have happened.
Lynda?
Yes.
Lynda?
What can I say? I think Katie's just said it all. Yeah, we could never have seen this coming. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah. Could I just quickly move on? I just wanted to say, Viv says, I got a lump sum today of £7,000 under the self-employed scheme. How will I be taxed when I do my tax bill at the end of the year? I think this is for Katie, I think.
Yeah, the self-employed income support scheme is a grant, so you don't have to pay it back, but it is taxable and subject to your normal self-employed national insurance. If it was me and I was planning well ahead in the future, I would also consider what normal self-invested pension you take out of that as well. There is a bit of a discrepancy because the Chancellor confirmed last week that the coronavirus job retention scheme, which is for employed people, has been extended already and will be extended until October. But notable by its absence was any mention of self-employed income support, which at the moment covers the 3 months up to now in one lump payment, and it seems very much sort of discrepancy, inconsistent. So we're waiting to see in the next week or so the future of both income support schemes and any hopeful measures for people that have fallen through the gaps so far, though it doesn't sound like any of those rules are going to change to accommodate them, sadly.
Yeah, and just wanted to go on another question here from Jade Taylor, and she says, I'm not sure how it's possible, but I haven't left my house in 9 weeks, but I'm managing to spend more money than I would have before lockdown. I don't understand how this is happening. Now, if it's for Katie and Lindsay, you know, I just wondered if you could have given sort of like top 3 tips and advice for managing money in this very difficult situation, as it were. So I think if we wanted to, I could start with Lindsay first. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. First thing, definitely look at your electric and your gas things. If you haven't changed recently, look at changing to a cheaper tariff straight away. That'll save you money. Obviously, because you're in the house more, this particular client, if she's in the house more, she's going to be using more gas, more electric than she normally does. So that would increase the bills. Food, if they've not been out of the house, if they're shopping online, they're probably spending more at the supermarket shopping online, because if you're going out shopping, you'd maybe go to the market and you'd go to different shops to pick, I can get that cheaper somewhere else. So it's looking at the different, if you're doing shopping online, look at different supermarkets and find out where the cheapest deals are at that moment in time when you need it. Best tips I can offer really is that, looking at, like say, your gas and your electric, make sure that they're thing. Checking your bank accounts, make sure that you've got no direct debits coming out that you don't need to be coming out. Things like, like you said earlier, a gym membership that you haven't used in the last 12 months, cancel it. Any insurance policies that you don't use anymore or that sat there, just have a look through your direct debits and your standing orders that you've got set up with your bank, and make sure that you cancel any that you're not needed.
Yeah, I suppose it's a good time to sort of like take a financial review of your own financial circumstances and just look at your bank accounts, look at what's going out. I mean, I know I did the other day in terms of cancelling direct debits on things that I didn't need. So, yeah, that's a good tip.
Yeah.
Katie?
So I would call those pain-free savings, because they're not things you lose, but you cut the cost of them quite substantially. And at the moment, energy prices are the lowest that they have been for quite some time, and you can save about £300 off the average tariff. But then I would move on to painful savings. So looking at, do you actually need something? Do you need Sky anymore? Can you live with Freeview? I like to play the demotivating trick. Take your little guilty pleasure, add up how much it costs you over the year, and equate that to how much it would take to earn that money. So I think I did one for a coffee that I bought out about, I think I estimated about £3 every working day, so 5 days a week. It was about the cost of a holiday for me. And also, you know, it would have taken me 2.5 weeks on an average salary to sort of work that back. And that's quite a good way to cut out anything that you really don't need, that you could be bringing in yourself, you know, making your own lunches. And, you know, obviously we're stuck at home, but I know for sure that I've been ordering a few takeaways a little bit more often than normal. Also, I think, you know, the thing that I hope is kind of positive about all this is that people who kind of like to bury their head in the sand about finances before are taking a really good hard look at what is going out and coming in, and making good financial habits, starting new ones, regular switching habits, for example, or checking whether their council tax band is correct. In 92, basically the councils drove past houses and went, that one's an A, that one's a C, that one's a D, like that. And a lot of them are wrong because of it. So you can do a sort of test and check, and then see if you think that you should be on a lower band, and then you can apply to the council to change it. And if that makes good financial habits every single year from now on, or even like every 6 months, that's really positive. You know, we're quite a bad set of consumers as adults, because it's only recently that financial education's got on the curriculum. You know, I hope our younger children will be a lot better than us at it.
Is it
but
true,
I'm hoping, you know, the shock.
Is it true that the UK has one of the biggest domestic credit deficits in the world? Am I putting that, the biggest credit card bills in the world, basically?
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. But you know, if you're struggling at the moment, I would like to give a little bit of a warning. People are sort of looking at payment holidays, but there is something to consider. When you're on a payment holiday, you still accrue interest, and that will be spread over the rest of your term, whether that's a credit card or a mortgage. Now, if it's a mortgage, it doesn't make all that much difference in the future because of the long terms and the low interest rates. So you might add sort of £10 to £15 a month to the mortgage after the payment holiday. But when it comes to credit cards and things like that, the interest is a lot higher. It's sort of anything from 17 to 27%, and you're still accruing that interest if you're not paying anything off. So, you know, really think, do you need it? Take it if you need it. You've got until mid-July to apply for any payment holidays. Definitely start with mortgage. If you're on a lower rate, you know, order everything by the interest rate that you're on, and think about, you know, how you tackle your consumer credit one by one.
We've got a few questions about mortgage holidays. I'm going to summarize them all, the statements, and if you can feedback on that, be really good. And we'll have to be succinct because we're way over time now. A few friends have done mortgage holidays due to reduced income from maternity. I'd avoid it as it increases your future payments. The other one is we took a mortgage holiday, but still taking out money ourselves and put it into savings. If we need it, it's there. If not, it's a nice wage for savings. It's like a buffer to a money holiday. Hold on, there's more.
I've got a lot to say about that one.
I fixed that was from Tom. The first one was from Alex. Second one was from Tom. I fixed our mortgage rate for 5 years last year. I'm glad I did, as I have no idea what the state of the market will be around this time next year when I'll need to renew it. My partner's, this is Tom again, my partner's maternity pay ends this month, so cash is tight, and I'm on furlough pay. Not worried about money. I always think it's good to save if we can. There's more. We have agreed a sale on a house in our house, which is out of the area. We've now relocated to Leeds. The buyer put a hold on the sale once lockdown hit, and work stopped. Work stopped, bloating my rent bill at the same time. I've taken money out of my property to limit costs at these uncertain times. Quite a few points there. Sorry, I had to put them all together as one. Different ways people are addressing their mortgage payments.
So, yes, consider if you really need to take a payment holiday because you do accrue interest, your future payments will go up. But if you're going to do one and you're on a good rate, mortgages seem to be the best one for quite a lot of people, because the long term and the low interest that we've been on for a little while now will mean that you kind of only add a little bit to your future payments. The second question, sort of taking a mortgage payment holiday and then saving it, I would be very careful of doing that. There is a massive benefit for doing things like overpaying your mortgage, and instead of saving, paying off other debts like credit cards. And the reason for that is because the interest that it's costing you to borrow that product is more than what you're getting back in savings at the moment. Like I said earlier, those rates are pitiful. So it tips the balance the other way. Actually paying off debt is a lot better for you in the long run than saving that money. Though keep a good nest egg, if you've got 3 months of your normal income, that's a really good amount to sort of aim for. But you shouldn't, if you've got some money there, really think twice about sort of taking a payment holiday that you don't necessarily need.
So you're thinking it's not, does it affect your credit rating if you remortgage? And does it affect your credit holiday if you have a credit holiday that relates to cards and to mortgages as well?
So because you don't owe anything for that month and then you don't pay anything, you're not in arrears, so it doesn't put a black mark on your credit file. However, you have to consider what would be used to assess your affordability for products in the future. So you may want, we found out this week and we got confirmation from the financial regulator about this. Banks, if you were looking to get a mortgage in the near future, for example, would look at your recent history, and that could come into it, the fact that you sort of you needed to take a mortgage payment holiday because of reduced income. They look at everything from like even your regular mobile phone tariff. So they look at things like that to test your affordability. However, it wouldn't be a black mark on your credit file because no payment was due for that month. Okay. So don't worry about that. It's the same for any credit product.
All right, then that sounds good. I think one just asked for 3 tips. We'll have time for one thing for you each. Lynda, if there's anything you're going to say to people listening and watching tonight.
Get in contact with the creditors that you owe money to and discuss it with them. Keep in contact with them. And like I said, the more that you keep in contact with them, the more that they will help you. If you are in financial difficulties, give us a ring, email us, Facebook. We've got lots of different areas that you can contact us and we can discuss things in more detail.
Okay. And Katie?
Yeah, use this as well as not burying your head in the sand. Use this opportunity to start some new good financial habits. You'll find that you could save thousands over the next couple of years by switching, by getting the right products, by understanding what you're paying for and what you should be getting and what's good value and not. So there's lots of good consumer websites out there, ours included, of course, small plug, that can sort of talk you through all the products out there. Use this time, particularly if you're furloughed or not working, though I do understand lots of pressures with childcare and home educating as well. You know, just to create and build those financial building blocks and educate yourself ready for the future.
I wasn't sure if you said home educating or home medicating there. I think there's a lot of both going on there. Many thanks to everyone for being part of tonight's broadcast. Our focus tonight was on money. With us was Katie Watts, consumer expert on moneysavingexpert.com, the UK's biggest consumer advice website. Lynda Bailey, Director of Compliance and Advice Services at moneybuddies.org.uk, who's been taking questions on how to find out what benefits you can apply for right here in Leeds. And I'll put the contact numbers on the Facebook page. And Ron Batiste, a member of Leeds Dads who has experience in the care and legal fields. Knowledge empowers, and even when we find out things about this virus, which might be worrying, as we understand more, the less worried we'll be. Don't forget, as well as our AskADad's Facebook Live, we have a Leeds Dads virtual playhouse on Sunday afternoons at 2 p.m. Leeds Dad's quiz nights is on WhatsApp. That's Sunday nights at 8. And Leeds Dad's food parcel service is on Wednesday. So go onto our Facebook page on Wednesdays. You'll see details of the food parcel service. It's all here on facebook.com/Leeds Dads. I'm Erroll Murray from Leeds Dads. You can find us on our email, leedsdads@gmail.com. And we hope to be back soon. Thanks very much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.